Welcome back to Doctrines 2. We're looking at the assurance of salvation or eternal security. In other words, can I be assured that I will persevere or be preserved as a believer throughout my life? So we've talked about justification, we've talked about adoption, we've talked about sanctification, but to what degree can I be sure that I will be held securely in God's hand for all eternity throughout my life? So let's talk about the terms that are used, because there's a few terms that I'm going to throw around. There is some slight variation in these terms, but ultimately we're trying to get to the same idea, is once I am saved, will I always be saved? So beginning with the term perseverance. The Calvinists, 5-point Calvinists, use the term perseverance of the saints. This is one of the 5 points of Calvinism, the P in the tulip acrostic of perseverance of the saints. Basically, those who are elect, those who are saved, will be saved and will persevere to the end of their life and be ultimately saved. This doctrine of perseverance of the saints does have a couple of catches. First of all, I actually don't really like the word perseverance. In fact, when I teach this, many times I'll change the term perseverance to preservation or being preserved by God, because it puts the onus on God's hand of preservation rather than my efforts or seemingly my efforts, even if it is through the actual Holy Spirit, on persevering or maintaining my own faith. But let's talk about a few of the other terms, and then we'll get into the differences between the two in a second. So let's talk about then eternal security. This label is often used by moderate Calvinists to refer to that doctrine that I am eternally secure, held in the Father's hand, held in the hand of Jesus Christ. No one can pluck me from His hand, and I will never lose my salvation. I am eternally secure. You might even hear this more popularly as once saved, always saved. This term may be a little more cumbersome, but it really does clearly state the point that once I am justified, I will always be saved and will be saved for all eternity. There's another term here, though, that is very important, and I think it's really where the crux of the matter is. It's not about the doctrine of eternal security, but rather the assurance of the believer. Can I be sure that I am actually saved? While both Calvinists and Arminians agree that present assurance of salvation is possible, only the Arminian side can give actual present assurance. And we'll talk about why that is in a second here. So when we talk about assurance, we're really talking about the subjective side of this argument, whereas eternal security is more the objective side, where the truth of the matter from God's perspective, really the assurance deals with whether I feel saved or do I know that I'm saved? Can I have confidence in my salvation? All right. And so let's talk about these different views then. The different views, first of all, I've used the terms Calvinism versus Arminianism. John Calvin, of course, one of the great reformers, the French reformer who lived in Geneva, Switzerland, wrote considerably on this point and later developed into Calvinism. We talked about the tulip, T-U-L-I-P, before. He believes in the absolute security of the elect. However, Calvin also taught that one must persevere to the end in order to know that you are in fact saved. Because there's no way to know whether or not someone is truly elect unless they persevere. Even present faith is not enough for the strict or strong 5-point Calvinist. Moderate Calvinism, however, teaches that not only is eternal security possible, but present assurance of that security is also possible. And we'll get into why that is throughout these next few videos. Jacob Arminius, who lived about the same time as Calvin, taught that a person could, in fact, lose their salvation, but only really, in the initial teachings, really only for the sin of apostasy, this idea that you could apostate yourself, you could deny Christ, you could say, I do believe, and then turn around and say, I don't believe, and lose your salvation entirely. One really great counter to this was from Charles Ryrie, who said, is it possible to believe if it's possible to not believe tomorrow what you do believe today, do you really believe it today? That's really a good Calvinist argument against apostasy, that if you apostate yourself tomorrow, can you really say that you believed it today? And that's the argument against that. But let's talk more about that in a second. Then John Wesley came about 100 years later, and Wesleyanism, John Wesley, of course, the founder really of the Methodist Church that we see today, believed that it was possible for you to lose your salvation even just through serious intentional sin. Now, while he doesn't define what that serious sin might be, he did believe that it was possible to lose your salvation simply through sinning too much, and you could potentially lose your eternal salvation. So let's look at that contrast between those two. Ironically, Arminians and strong Calvinists have much in common on this issue. Both assert that professing believers living in gross, unrepentant sin are not truly saved. They just approach it differently. While the Arminian would say, if you're living in gross, unrepentant sin, you could lose your salvation. The Calvinists, however, if you're living in gross, unrepentant sin, would say, well, you were never truly saved. You were never truly elect, and you must therefore not be saved. Both insist that a person cannot be living in serious sin at the end of your life and be truly saved. And both maintain that no one living in grave sin can be sure of his or her salvation. If you sin too much, you might not be saved. So it's interesting that both of them ultimately, even though they start from opposite sides, end up practically meaning the same thing. So let's talk about that in contrast. In strong Calvinism, you have absolute eternal security, but no assurance of your salvation. Whereas Arminians can be assured of their salvation as long as they don't fall, as long as they don't apostate themselves, they can have assurance of their salvation, though they have no security. A moderate Calvinist perspective tries to bring those two together and says, no, the Scriptures say that I'm both eternally secure and I can have present assurance of salvation. And ultimately, this falls on for the Calvinist side, and I realize this sounds almost like counterintuitive, but on the Calvinist side, it falls to this idea of false belief or false assurance or false grace, that if someone falls away, well, they weren't truly saved. Maybe they weren't sincere in their faith. Maybe they didn't truly believe. So ultimately, it comes down to this. How can I know for sure that I am truly saved? And we'll look at that in future videos.